Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So it's time to look at the new handicap marks that have come out this week. There's a few that caught my eye. I think we've actually got, I might have 7 or 8 here. All 4 different trainers, which is really interesting. Normally, I seem to find 2 or 3 for the same trainer. I'm just going to have a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 10. I think they're all from different trainers, which is pretty cool. So let's kick off with the first one that we're going to talk about is Adjuvant, who finished 4th and never near a 4th at Goodwood on Saturday when he was a bit too far back. He doesn't always pick up strongly, doesn't always find as much as you hope off the bridle. But his handicap mark is starting to fall because of that. He's dropped another pound from Saturday. He's down to 92. We've got to remember he's been as high as 97. And in actual fact, off 92, that would actually mean he's £3 lower, than when he was second to Sweet William. Well, that form is obviously really strong at Goodwood. I mean, that could be where they're aiming him. They could be looking at the Coral Summer Handicap at the end of the Goodwood Festival. Yeah, he's second behind Sweet William and in front of Yukon Glen. That was a very, very good run. Obviously, Sweet William was rated 95 that day. He's now rated 108, so he's £13 higher. Whereas Adjuvant is £3 lower. So if they actually reopposed, it'd be £16 better off. They won't, because Sweet William is now a group horse. But I just think that demonstrates how nicely handicapped Adjuvant is now. And I think he could be very interesting going forward. So I'm talking about Goodwood, and he's probably going to be aimed at that race back at the Goodwood Festival. However, there is a race that I'd like to see him in beforehand, and that's this race at Newmarket. It's this 1 mile 6 furlong handicap on Friday the 12th of July. So on the July course, he's only had the 2 runs back earlier on in his career. If we can have a look back here. Here they are here. 2 runs on the July course. He finished 4th over 1 mile and 2, and then he won over 1 mile and 4. Now, this horse wants 1 mile and 6. So the fact that he was able to run a decent race for 4th over 1 mile and 2, and then a good, he actually won over 1 mile and 4, probably suggests to me that there's more to come from him over 1 mile and 6 at the July course. So yeah, I'm quite interested in him. If he runs in this race on the 12th of July over 1 mile and 6, I think he'll run a nice race. And yeah, depending on obviously who he comes up against, if there's something ridiculously well handicapped, then we might not be selecting him. But if it came that there was just average horses in the race, he could well be a selection on Friday the 12th of July in that 1 mile 6 Bet365 trophy. Definitely one to keep an eye out for. That's Adjuvant, hopefully going to Newmarket for the July course race. Second horse I want to talk about is Law of the Sea, who dropped a pound down to, what did he drop down to? 89. Now, I don't think he wants this soft ground, does he? I know he ran well for 4th at Chester, the Chester Cup last year, on soft ground. But if we look at his runs since then on soft ground, he finished 12th of 17, beaten 43 lengths. He finished last of 31, beaten 95 lengths. And now he's finished 10th of 13, beaten 19.5 lengths. For me, I just think he doesn't want soft ground. He wants better ground. And, his effort in the Chester Plate was a good effort, beaten by the 2 Tony Martin horses on good to firm. If we go back to Ascot, he was 4th at Ascot on good ground. He was 2nd at Haydock on good to firm. You can see the difference. So he ran in the same race. He finished 2nd on good to firm. He finished 10th on soft. He just doesn't want that soft ground. But that does mean he's dropped another pound to 89, which actually means he's £3 lower than when he ran a really good race at Ascot last season in the Ascot Stakes, when he was 4th behind a horse of no name, Calling the Wind and Tritonic. I think if Law of the Sea turns up here, again, off this mark of 89, I think he'll run a really big race. I think he'll go very close off 89 in the Ascot Stakes. So hopefully that's where we see him next. Moving on to Novello, who has dropped a pound to 87. We thought he might drop after his disappointing run at Windsor. He's dropped a pound to 87, which means he's back down to 87, which he finished 2nd at Newmarket off, when I think he should have won. And also that means he's £1 lower than when winning the Epsom Dash last year. And, he won the Epsom Dash. I imagine the cheek pieces will be back on. And he could certainly run another very big race in the Epsom Dash on Saturday. Interestingly, the horse he beat is also in it, Silky Wilkie. And a couple of others that also ran last year that I think will be interesting again this year. Alligator Alley and Live in the Moment, who both had issues with the stalls, opening late, so they would be forgiven their issues, as Alligator Alley also ran into a lot of trouble. Novello would definitely have a big chance, as would Silky Wilkie. As I've mentioned, Silky Wilkie I think would be £9 lower, Novello just the £1. But obviously it'll be interesting to see who is declared for the race. But if they put those cheek pieces back on Novello, definitely interesting I think on Saturday, off that £1 lower mark. We move on to Ross Collin, another that's made this eye catchers a few times. I would imagine he's being geared around coming back to Goodwood. Look at his last 3 wins. Goodwood, Goodwood and Goodwood. Surely that's where he's going to be aimed again, isn't he? Coming back to Goodwood. 7 furlongs, that's what he loves. But in the meantime, what do you do with him? So he's dropped £1 to 96. Now, when he was winning at Goodwood, his final race at Goodwood in September, he was running off 94. So he can win off around this type of mark. But I wonder whether they might go to Ascot for his next run for the Buckingham Palace Stakes. Now, he actually ran in this race a few years ago. When was it? He ran off 103 this day. And he ran a really good race. He was 3rd behind Inver Park and Ropey Guest. Great effort. Obviously, he's still off that lower mark. Now, I know it didn't work last year. He finished a disappointing 23rd of 29. But if things just went wrong that day, and he bounces back to form, I can see him running a really big race at Ascot. And if it doesn't, if it's not going well, you give up and you get dropped a couple of pound. That's how I kind of feel that they will ride Ross Collin, to either go very, very close. If it's not happening, they'll go very easy on him and hope that he drops another couple of pound in the handicap with Goodwood in mind. Moving on, you can see who the next one is on my screen already. It is Vintage Clarets, who's dropped £1 to 96. And I kind of feel this is about the type of mark that he can go well off. 97, maybe a pound or two too high. 96, I'd like to see him just dropped £1 more. If he dropped another pound, I'd be very confident about him in his next run. I still think he's going to run a big race. And hopefully that next race is at Ascot on the 15th of July. Let me just wait for this page to load. The 13th of July, sorry. Saturday the 13th of July. Back for this 5 furlong handicap, the first race on the card. He ran in this race last year. Finished 3rd, not beaten far, beaten a length and a quarter, off 95. He's only ever been to Ascot twice. His other occasion, he went to Ascot. He finished 3rd behind Berkshire Shadow and Eldrick Jones in a Group 2. So clearly runs big races at Ascot. And I hope they don't over-race him and they look after him now. He's already run 4 times, April, May. Give him a break now. Come back in July for this race that they finished 3rd in. I think he goes very close. Even off a pound higher mark than what he was 3rd last year. If they do run him in the meantime and they go somewhere and he disappoints and he drops another couple, when he comes back for this race at Ascot, very keen on him. We move on to Classic for Richard Hannon, who's dropped £2 to 92. Now, he disappointed on Saturday at Sandown. Was it Saturday? The 23rd. When's the 23rd? That wasn't Saturday, was it? The 23rd was Thursday. He disappointed. He finished 9th of 9, beaten 11 lengths. Interestingly, though, last season on his first run back, he finished 10th of 11, beaten 50 lengths at Newbury. So maybe he just needs a couple of runs to get going. You can see that he went 10th, 6th, 4th, 1st, 4th, 2nd. So he was a better horse at the back end of the season. And I feel that, you could even say it happened in his 2-year-old days. 4th, 2nd, 1st. He took a few runs to get going. And I feel that could be what happens again this season. I'm hoping they've not left as much work in him this year. And that they could go close in this race on the 9th of June at Goodwood. The 7 furlong race at the start of the card. For horses rated 76 to 95, so obviously being rated 92, he gets in. He's one of the better horses. And I think he would run a big race there if he's ready to go. If not, then the time after that, wherever he goes, I'd be very interested in Classic. But he's definitely one for next time as well. Moving on to Dreams a Dozen, who dropped £2 to 75 for Charlie and Mark Johnston. Is it Charlie and Mark Johnston, or is it just Charlie Johnson? It's just Charlie Johnson on the licence now for Diva Racing. Now, I just wonder whether this 2-mile trip is not what the horse wants or gets. If we look at his last 4 runs, he was 6th of 7 over 2 mile, 3rd of 9, beaten 13 lengths over 2 mile, 7th of 16 and 7th of 10 over 2 mile 2 and 2 mile. Maybe he needs a drop back in trip. Now, being for a syndicate, I think these are the types of horses that the trainer should really be trying to get wins into, rather than aiming high or trying different things. Go and get a win back into this horse now. And I think there's a real obvious place they should go. It's to Hamilton for this 1 mile 5, 16-yard handicap for horses rated 59 to 78. So obviously being rated 75, she gets in, and she's right near the top of the handicap. Now, she's been to Hamilton twice. Let's just have a look. She finished 2nd, beaten, what was she beaten that day? I'm just having a look. Length and a quarter. And then went back there in August and won over 1 mile and 3. Where is it? This race here. She definitely stays further than that. This trip, 1 mile 5, 16 yards is ideal. The course she clearly runs really well at. I mean, that's a really obvious one. It's a drop in class as well. It's down to a class 4. Or say drop in class. She did run in a class 4. She ran in a class 5, on Saturday. This race, class 4, I think she would run a really big race here. It's an easy race for her. At a course she does run well at. I'd be disappointed if she doesn't go very close there. 3 more to go. The third to last one is Manila Scouse for Tim Easterby, who's dropped another £3 to 79. Thought that was quite kind, considering he still ran well for 6th. Beaten 5 and a bit lengths by the very impressive Starlust. Starlust, how far did that one win? By 2 and a bit. There wasn't a lot really behind for those behind. And it just didn't quite work out for Manila Scouse. Where do you go with Manila Scouse? Well, Manila Scouse has form at York. Stay at York. But drop in class. There's this race here over 6 furlongs, so up back to 6 furlongs, which I think he wants, for horses rated 66 to 85, a class 4. His last 2 runs, he's run class 2 at York. In actual fact, just looking at his last so many runs at York, class 2, class 2, class 2, class 2, class 2, I'm just going back through them, and class 4. So he's only, it was a long time ago that he last ran in a class 4. Since then he's running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 class 2 events at York. I think if you drop him back to class 4, he'll run a really big race on the 15th of June. 2 to go. Moving on to Rabar, who dropped £3 to 92 for Charlie Hills. And that's got to have been too bad to be true. Really disappointing run. He's one that I definitely feel should be dropped in class to get confidence back. Now, there is a handicap. Where is it? It's the 6 furlong handicap for horses rated 76 to 95. He's rated 92, so again, he'll be near the top of the handicap. It's a class 3, a significant drop from what he's been running in. I say significant, it's only a class, but, you know, it'll be a much easier race because they were decent class 2s that he'd taken in the last twice. It's at Haydock. He's not been to Haydock, but he's by Dubawi. Sire is Dubawi, and Dubawi progeny have a very good record in sprints at Haydock. So I think the course would suit fine. So yeah, that's where I hope we see Rabar dropping in class, going back up to 6 furlongs. A bit of a confidence booster. I think he would go very close there. And finally, the last one, Mondamej, who's been given a whopping drop, another £5 down to 73. Well, that means he's actually dropped from the beginning of last season from 99 down to 73 very quickly. I think he also should go to Haydock. there is a 6 furlong handicap, the Betfred Nifty 50 handicap, on the 7th of June for horses rated 56 to 75. Again, rated 73, he'd been in the top of the handicap. It's a class 5 at Haydock. He's been to Haydock a few times. He's run off marks between 88 and 102 at Haydock, and he's had 2 wins and a 4th, 6, 7, 8 were his finishing positions. But as I said, they came off marks of 88 to 102. Going back there off 73, I think if we're going to see a revival in form, it's going to be there on the 7th of June at Haydock for Mondomège. So there's some horses for you. Nagmi, Adjuvant, Law of the Sea, Novello, Roscollon, Vintage Clarets, Classic, Dreams a Dozen, Manila Scouse, Rabar and Mondomège.